Are you a beginner or intermediate programmer who struggles to advance your skills? This is a situation that a lot of people find themselves in, so here are my top 5 things that will help you to grow as a programmer in any area of IT. So first of all, every programmer needs to know Git, which is a version control system. And you might say something like this: Git? Come on, everybody already knows about it, everyone is using it. And yes, you are right about that. Practically every programmer uses Git. But if the only things you do are clone, push, pull actions, then you're not using Git to its full potential. Yes, basic functionality could be enough if you're working on a personal project or if you're in a small team as a junior developer. But if you really want to excel in Git and become an expert, you need to learn the following 3 things. So first of all, explore and practice other commands that are available in Git. This could be things like stash, rebase, revert commit, cherry pick, and many others. Obviously, it's a good idea to practice them, but at least get to know what they are so that later on you will know when to use them. Secondly, get to know different flows that are available in version control systems, so things like Git flow, GitHub flow, and trunk-based development. These are the most popular branching strategies used in the development, so it makes sense that you need to know them. Thirdly, don't just use GUIs or graphical user interfaces like Gitkraken or SourceTree. Instead, try to learn Git from the terminal, how to use it with command line options and flags. As good as GUIs are nowadays, there are just some things that you're able to do only from the terminal. Lastly, if you have free time on your hands, it's a good idea to explore other Git alternatives such as Mercurial or Subversion. This will give you a deeper understanding of how these version control systems work and what are the main differences between them. Okay, then there are Agile Principles, and this will really set you apart from other developers. These are industry standards that enable fast and effective development. You've already probably heard about the most popular examples of Agile such as Scrum and Kanban. Yet, do you know the differences between the two, and do you know when to use one over the other? Dig into the specifics of each Agile methodology, and this will give you a new perspective on what software development is really all about. Also, don't forget to learn about other methodologies like extreme programming. But I would say that Scrum and Kanban will cover 80% of what you need to know in this particular area. If you're enjoying this video so far, subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. Next, it's important to know design principles, which are general guidelines, rules, and best practices to follow when writing code. Obviously, the most popular example of this would be the solid principles, but don't forget that there are other principles like grasp, kiss, dry, and many others. It is your job to find most commonly used principles in your area of programming, learn them, and then effectively use them in your code. However, I do have to mention that these principles are not the golden rule that you must follow all the time. In some cases, you will have to make compromises. But the main idea behind them is that they will set you on the right path of writing good quality code. And then later on, when you will become an advanced programmer, you will be able to make the right decision for yourself. And now let's talk about the design and architectural patterns, which are the little and big things that will help you make your project more flexible and maintainable. You can think of design patterns as tactics that you can apply to solving individual problems, whereas architectural patterns are strategies that you can apply to your project as a whole. When starting to learn about the design patterns, you need to find what works best in your particular programming language as well as in your programming paradigm. So for example, in object-oriented programming with C# or Java, it's a good idea to start with a book that is called The Gang of Four. It has all the best approaches to solve various kinds of problems. But for other programming languages and different paradigms such as functional, procedural, logical, and the list goes on, once again, it is your job to find the best and most common practices. However, with architectural patterns, you are less tied to a specific programming language or paradigm. Instead, the choice of an architectural pattern depends on what type of project you are building. When choosing an architectural pattern for your project, you need to understand what different parts your project has and how they will communicate with one another. Will your project have a user interface? Will it connect to other services? Is it a self-contained solution? There are so many questions to answer. Picking the right architecture for your project is always a challenge because in many cases it's a unique solution, and therefore for best results it needs a unique architecture. However, what you could do is to learn about various and most commonly used architectural patterns for your type of project. So learn about things like MVCs, microservices, client-server architectures, pipe filter approach, and many others. Then what you could do is to take a certain architectural approach and then modify it to fit your project needs, or even create a hybrid solution. Lastly, there are data structures and algorithms, and yes, I know it will sound boring to some of you, but trust me, every programmer needs to know them. The more advanced your projects become, the more performance you need to squeeze out them, and this is where data structures and algorithms play a crucial role. These are the fundamental blocks of programming, and it's important to know not only what they are, but how they work and when to use them. Get to know what linked lists, hash sets, dictionaries, queues, and stacks are. Start with the basics and practice applying them in your code. With algorithms, it's a good idea to get to know them as well, but in many cases you will already have a library to go with in your code. However, it is still important to understand how each of them works and when to use one over the other. And that is it. Here are 5 things that every programmer needs to know. There are certain nuances that vary from one area to another, but the general idea remains the same. Explore how to apply these 5 things in your area of programming and you will be on your way to success. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like. Also, I want to remind you that I answered to all the questions that you write, so if you have any, make sure to leave a comment. Check out this video if you're interested in learning how to use ChatGPT to boost your learning. Have a good day and see ya!